This is Jordan Edwards, and this is the Business Jiu Jitsu Podcast. All right, we're back. Colton Crawford. Really, really great to have you back on the podcast. I went back and listened to our episode from 2 years ago. Doesn't feel like 2 years ago, but it was 2 years ago. And I was so happy to listen to that conversation. We had such a good conversation. I don't know how much you recall or if you had a chance to go back, but it's like one of my favorite conversations that I had about music and jiu-jitsu and business and everything else. So pumped to have you back.
Hell yeah. Thanks for having me again, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So give us a little catch up. How's everything going in your life?
Everything's good, man. We're on tour right now. We're in Dallas, Texas tonight. We got a little bit of a flu ripping through the bus. So the last couple of days were pretty gnarly, but I'm on the upswing now. So it's pretty good. That bus is like a Petri dish. Once someone gets something, it just rips through everybody. So, but no, the shows have been good. We just released a new album just a little over a week ago. Been training lots, streaming lots, and I have a 8-month-old now at home. So
we have a lot to catch up on over here.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll say that you're the banjoist. Lead banjo for the Dead South, incredible band. You guys have been at it for a number of years now, and you're on tour and with a new album. That's just incredible.
Yeah, it's busy time.
Yeah. Let me see if I could pull up this. What's the name of the new album?
The new one's called Chains and Stakes.
All right, I've got it right here. Let me share my screen. Here it is on Spotify. Chains and Stakes.
One, yeah.
What's the process like of putting an album together like this?
So this one was kind of different than what we've done in the past. We did this one in Mexico City. So last March, we went down for a week, and we just got an Airbnb, checked out the studio, kind of jammed and made some demos, and we hadn't released a full-length album like of original music since 2018, I think was the last one. So this, like, the songs just started pouring out of us. Like, we went down for a week and came back with 7 like pretty much completed songs, and then we went home and kind of like individually worked on parts and practiced things for a month or two, and then last May we went back to Mexico City for 2 weeks and finished it off. We kind of re-recorded the demos and then wrote and recorded a couple new ones. So it was so much fun because we hadn't just done like jamming and writing original music for a while. So it was awesome.
Yeah. You know, I'm going back and listening to our first conversation 2 years ago. I had hundreds of millions of streams and views, and now it seems across your platforms have gone into the billions category. I mean, that is just what an incredible accomplishment. And so grateful for you to take the time to be on here, and the music is really good. Really good.
I really appreciate that, dude. Thank you.
I love it. I mean, I love seeing you rip on the banjo too. It's just awesome music. So, of course, number one question I have to ask you is, like, how do you fit the training into that touring life?
You know, it's not that difficult as long as I can find somewhere to train during the day. Which in the States, like now in the States, there's jiu-jitsu gym everywhere, and a lot of gyms have like training all throughout the day, morning classes, afternoon and evening. It's a little harder overseas, where it's usually like evening training, but in the States it's pretty easy. And I've made a couple posts in like the BJJ Fanatics Facebook group, and those usually go pretty crazy. And people, even if there's no daytime training, they'll hit me up and say, "Oh, like we can open the gym at 2 p.m. if you want to come in and get some rolls in." So that's been really nice. And just on this tour, I actually bought some of those Dolomir, like those rollout mats that just live in the truck with all the gear. So now if I can't make it to a gym, I can just roll out the mats and train with one of the guys. And actually, Nate, our singer, he started training just like for a couple of weeks before this tour. So he's been training like 4
that's
weeks
awesome.
or so now. So yeah, so we can get some rolling in with him too, which is awesome.
Yeah, one of my friends, Sophia Yurtsia, she's a rock rock star. She's in a band, and they tour with Tool.
Oh, that's sick.
Maynard is black belt. So every once in a while, Maynard posts pictures and they're on tour. He is in the back, and he's got they're training, and it just reminded me of you also, of course, being on tour. Just very, very cool. But I saw you said it's easy in the States. Your tour is going to go all over the world. You guys saw you're going to be in Australia, you're going to be in Europe. It's going to be a busy year.
A very busy year. Yeah. After this run, so we're on the road now for another week and a half. Home for a couple weeks, and then off to Australia for a few weeks. We kind of do like a couple weeks on, couple weeks off, like working in a mine kind of. And then it's Europe after that, and then we do I think 2 or 3 more runs in the States this year. Heavier in the States, which is nice. A little closer to home, no jet lag, and lots of jiu-jitsu. So yeah.
When you're home, are you training at your home academy pretty regularly?
Yeah, as much as I can.
So, what's training been like recently? Like, what are you working on?
Dude, so my home gym does pretty much exclusively gi.
Yeah.
So on tour, I try and do exclusively no gi just to get the no gi training in. And at first, I hated it because like I'm like a spider guard guy in the gi, collar sleeve, and obviously you take those grips away and your guard just blows when you start doing no gi. So at first, I hated it. But I've really, really started to enjoy no-gi a lot more. I find it's a little more flowy, it's a little more fun. And the leg lock game is something I've been studying for the last little bit and trying to work on. It's like I'm still very much like a white belt in the leg lock stuff. But working on it. But and then every time I go home, it's fun too because all the guys that I train with have leveled up, and so I go on tour, I get my ass whooped, and then I go back home and I get my ass whooped there too. So it's been a lot of
You're a pretty big guy, right? I mean, I get the sense that you're probably like above 6 feet, pretty. What are you? More than 200 pounds? Shit.
No, I'm actually pretty small. I'm 5'9", about 190 right now. Yeah.
Let me put this picture of you recently so the people could see. I was looking on your Instagram. By the way, we got to talk about this adorable baby, but I'm looking at this picture of you and I'm like, oh, he's a big guy. I got the sense that you.
I've definitely put on some weight since we last spoke, probably 20 pounds or so. So
you look fit. You don't look fat there at all. I mean, you look like ripped. And I was like, man, is he like 6'4"? But,
no.
All right, you're normal.
Yeah, normal size. Yeah.
Cool, man. So when you're studying leg locks, is this on like BJJ Fanatics DVDs?
Yeah, pretty much.
Which ones are you into right now?
I've watched a little bit of the Danaher one, some of the Lachlan 50/50 one as well. But a lot of it is just kind of like going into training and just like getting to some of these positions, trying to enter into the leg lock positions and kind of just playing around and screwing around from there. I've been watching a lot of. Actually, do you know who Greg Souders is? This guy that's really caught my attention lately.
Right.
His whole.
How do I say his last name?
Souders. Souders.
Greg Souders.
Yeah, he's got this philosophy that's like it's like a no drilling philosophy, and he teaches like all of his coaching is like kind of task based games. And I've been listening to tons of his stuff and podcasts with him because I don't really get to do a lot of drilling training on the road all the time. I'm kind of dropping in for open mats or I'm getting together with guys for some rolling. So I've been sort of like trying to set these little tasks and goals for myself.
I got to check
rather
him
than
out.
kind of thinking about
I haven't seen him, but
step.
I'm excited to look into it a little bit.
Yeah, he's really, really interesting, man. It's kind of been a really it's made me rethink training jiu-jitsu, and it works for me, just like I said, because I'm on the road and I'm not training with
explain the thinking a little bit more. So if there's no drilling, are you still learning techniques and then just going right to live training, or is it like situational analysis where you're working out of positions? How does he think about jiu-jitsu?
So he'd do a lot better job explaining this to me because there's like scientific kind of research that he's basing his philosophy on. But the general idea, I think, is that he's saying that like you can't. It's more about focusing on the outcome of what you're trying to achieve rather than the step-by-step methods of getting there. And his kind of philosophy is like a technique is just sort of like a means to an end, where the outcome should really be the focus rather than like step one, put your knee here, step two, put your arm there. The reason you're putting your knee there and the reason you're putting your arm there, if you can understand the why behind it, is more important than the actual step-by-step sort of thing. So what he'll do is he'll put his students in a position. So for example, like one of the drills he does with his beginner students is he'll have bottom player on their back, kind of like open guard, knees up, top player standing. Top player or bottom player's goal is to get both feet inside the legs and secure grips on both feet. Top player's goal is to use the hands to not allow them to get inside position and to secure a chest-to-chest position. And any way you can do that is, you figure out whatever way works best for you, kind of thing. Is the philosophy.
Yeah, games.
So it's like not a one size. Yeah, it's games and task-based focuses rather than like a step-by-step approach. So I don't know.
Those of you who are listening, I'm sharing my screen right now, and I noticed on his Instagram that he's got a few clips up here with Kit Dale. And as you were speaking, I was saying, this feels like something Kit Dale talked about when he was on the Business Jiu-Jitsu podcast. Kit was basically saying that, and he very famously got his black belt in 3 years, and he had a principles-based approach, if I remember correctly, where instead of teaching the exact technique of, let's say, a sweep, he would teach and learn the principles of off balancing somebody. Like, what are you trying to do? You're trying to basically like sweep them. So there you go. Kit is right here and he's talking to Greg. So interesting. I have to look into this guy.
Yeah. He's been making the rounds on a lot of the podcasts I listen to and stuff. So it's been cool. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I in December, I went for the second year in a row down to St. Bart's for the BJJ Globetrotters Caribbean camp. And Christian Rogert, who runs BJJ Globetrotters, you're familiar with BJJ Globetrotters, right? They're like an international affiliation, and they do camps. He does like 13 or 14 camps all over the world each year. And so last year, he told us that he had been beginning and working on arm bars as a project. So he's been a black belt for a very long time. And he started to say that now he's thinking about jiu-jitsu and getting very excited about jiu-jitsu, about thinking about these like long-term projects. And so that was last year. And then when I got back this year, he was still working on the same project. And he said he's just been obsessed over every single aspect and detail of mastering and refining arm bars and only going for arm bars and arm bars from every position. And I just thought it was a really interesting approach to staying fresh on jiu-jitsu. It's like, hyper focusing on these certain areas and learning everything and uncovering it, because so often when we're doing anything in life, we want to do everything all at once. We want to master every aspect. And only when you've been doing something a very long time can you actually go back and say, I want to get really good at this micro detail, this little thing, and then have like the discipline to make that exciting over a long period of time. So I'm just fascinated by all these ways of approaching our sport.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's like the other thing too is like when you kind of limit yourself, like if you're only looking for arm bars, you're going to start seeing them from places you never would have seen them before either. It's like when you have a hammer in your hand, you start suddenly seeing all the nails that are poking out everywhere. And I've been kind of doing a little bit of a similar thing with triangles lately. And then I just started hitting them like from mount and side control. And I never drilled that, never looked. But when you just have that in your head, like I only want to try and submit with a triangle today, you'll start seeing them in places that you normally wouldn't. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that it's hard to understand when you're a white belt or maybe even a blue belt, to have this perspective. You kind of have to start to get a good grasp of fundamentals so that you can, I think Josh Waitzkin in his book, The Art of Learning, calls this learning form to lose form. Did you ever read the book, The Art of Learning?
Dude, I did. And I've been thinking about it a lot lately, and I need to reread it because I'm a little bit foggy on it, but it's awesome. Yeah. I love that book.
It's one of the white belts last night. asked, we had, we do a mat chat at my dojo. After we train, we get together, and my sensei gives these like incredible talks. And he talks about like philosophy, and then he sometimes opens up for questions. He's a little bit of an old school guy, so he doesn't really take questions that often during practice. But at the end, he'll open it up for questions. And one of the white belts said, when the upper belts are training and practicing with us, are they thinking about the techniques they want to do, or are they just kind of like flowing, like free flowing? And and I was thinking about you, and then this podcast is like a measure of, am I playing the exact song, or are we jamming? Are we riffing? Are we like, coming up, finding something new in the music each time? And I think that just like, it's such a beautiful thing. And then I always think back to Josh Mason, like form to lose form. Like at the beginning, you have to learn the fundamentals of this sport. You can't just like go out there and try to be insanely creative. There's fundamental understanding, and then once you get a good grasp of those fundamentals, you want to like almost unlearn them and just let anything happen. So what's your experience been like that, both from jiu-jitsu and music?
Yeah, it's interesting. You have to learn the rules before you can break them, because you don't know how to bend and break them without knowing what they are first.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like as I've progressed in jiu-jitsu, I think that's why kind of this sort of no drilling philosophy has been working for me a little bit lately, because it's just sort of like refreshing the way that I'm kind of conceptualizing the whole sport and the whole like training. And I'm thinking of just like these little goals that I have, instead of I want to, like, if this happens, I'm going to do a knee cut. If this happens, I'm going to pass to the outside or whatever. Yeah, it's interesting. Music wise, it's a little bit different, because at least like the way I write and perform with the band, it's more like I'm trying to perform everything note by note, kind of the exact same every single night. So a lot of the practice that I'm doing at home is just like trying to like refine my parts so that they're just like note by note, kind of album perfect the whole time. So it's a little bit different, but like a lot of musicians, that's not the case. Like blues and jazz, it's very much free form, jamming, improvising. So like, yeah, I could definitely see how a lot of musicians would absolutely take that approach as well.
Yeah. Did you ever listen to or go to a Fish show?
No, I haven't.
Are you aware of that band? Like you?
Oh yeah, I'm aware of them. Yeah.
So I wasn't like a fan growing up, but I think we talked about this last time. Like I loved house music. I mean, I still love house music, but that was like the music that I loved. And my friends that I would go to house music shows with, they're like, "You got to come to Fish, you're gonna love it." And I was always like a little reticent, because the music on God bless you, the music on CD or tape, it was like big tapes. Like when I was growing up, the Fish tapes. I couldn't get it. I needed a little bit more maturity to understand it. So I go to my first show around 2013, and it was off the charts amazing. Like it's just crazy, but they'll play a song that everybody knows, and then they'll just go off for 15 minutes improvising and bouncing off of each other. And like I would say to my friend, like, wait a second, are they like passing the ball back and forth right now? He's like, yes, that's exactly what's happening. And so like it always reminds me of this like beautiful aspect of jiu-jitsu too, where it's like sometimes you're doing the technique exactly as the way it was taught to you. But other times 10 techniques merge into each other, and you're not doing a specific technique, you're improvising on the spot.
Totally. Yeah, it's really cool. And sometimes, I don't know about you, but I find sometimes something you're taught doesn't click until like a couple years later, even sometimes, where like all of a sudden I'll understand like, oh, like the reason that this sweep wasn't working was because I couldn't connect it to, I guess, like my own kind of like pathways and understandings and the like setups that I use normally. And then suddenly it's like, oh, when I do this thing first and then go into that technique that I was taught 2 years ago, suddenly it works.
Yes.
Like the hips to mat sweep from the De La Hiva. I don't know if you know that one, where you basically like you off balance them and then you have the collar and the sleeve De La Hiva.
Yeah.
You take them over to the left side. That one, like I remember learning that at blue belt, and it wasn't until like end of purple belt that I started hitting it. But
I love
it was just a matter of learning how to like how to get them moving in the proper way first before taking them over. But
yeah, I'll give you an example, one that I love. Same exact thing. It's just like a traditional up and over sweep. They're in your guard. You open your legs. You post on one arm and explode up, and you come over and you get catch the back of their tricep and you sweep them. Now you're in top and mount. And what I found is like just how you said, when I first started, I was so hyper focused on trying to do each detail perfectly. Open my legs, plant them the right way, post in the right spot, make sure my elbow was cocked in the right position, come over the top, get my hand right in the right spot on the back of their tricep, explode my hips perfectly into the center of their chest to get the. But what I realized as I got really good at doing the sweep was that I could do the sweep 20 different ways as long as I got their arm that I was trying to trap moving away from where I was going to have them land. So for example, sometimes I'll just get, like some people call like a burrito grip I've heard, or like 2-on-1 where I'm just holding the wrist. I just kind of get it over my head. And then I can just kind of like hip bump them over. Same sweep, same principle. And I could just like, as long as I'm taking away their post and getting my hips up over them, I don't have to do any part of it other than just sweep them. There's so many different ways to do it.
Well, it's so interesting. Another thing that I've learned too, like as I've gotten better, is like all the techniques work and they all don't work based on your opponent's reaction. So it's more about getting your opponent to react the way you want prior to the technique almost than it is like doing the technique perfectly, if that makes sense. A lot of the time.
Perfect sense.
Yeah.
That's you're describing tactics. You're describing setups, feints, combinations. Those are it's so important. Again, those are very, very hard things to learn, and we touched on this briefly last time we talked. But I it's in my new book. My new book is about to come out, by the way. It's
hell yeah, dude.
Getting to the end of the editing the manuscript, putting the final touches on. I wrote 80,000 words. I had to get it under 60,000 words from the publisher. So I was like doing a lot of editing and cutting and getting rid of stories. But it's still, I think, it'll be a solid book. And one of the things that we talked about that's going to be in the book is jiu-jitsu as musical notes, and harmonies. And, you learn it in notes, but you don't play the notes. As a matter of fact, the music is in between the notes. It's the whole collection of the notes and the harmonies together is what makes the music. And so it's just a really interesting way for beginners to understand it, because everybody can kind of understand a musical note. Dun, 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 A, B, C. So it's understanding it in that way, I think, helps a lot of beginners kind of like understand, like, oh, okay, now I have to, in order to kind of get to this next level, I have to think about it musically versus thinking about it so mechanically.
Yeah, absolutely. The context is everything.
Yeah. All right, let me ask you a question. This was a big one for me because I'm a father of 2 and I have one on the way, number 3.
Hey, congrats, man.
Thank you so much. And you're a father since I saw you last. Let me pull up this little picture over here. This adorable baby.
Yeah, there she is.
Congratulations. How has being a father changed your life?
Oh, dude, it's the best thing ever. It's just like my wife heard someone describe it as like, once you have a kid, your heart is now on the outside of your body. And that's like, it's exactly what it feels like. It's just like, it just kind of, it puts everything into perspective and gives like just a new meaning and purpose to absolutely everything you do. And she's just brought so much joy into my life and my wife's life and our family's lives. And yeah, it's the best thing ever, man. It's like something that I was obviously so nervous about. And like I wanted kids, but you still kind of like unsure, like, oh shit, like, am I going to like being a dad? I've never been like super big on babies, like I've never wanted to hold someone else's baby or anything. But dude, as soon as she was born, it was just like, oh yeah, it feels so natural, and it's the best thing ever.
It is incredible how, we really are made to have children. Obviously, it's, genetically and physiologically, like we are designed to do that. And even whatever your inner monologue tells you, when you hold that baby, there's something special that happens. It's a
Oh,
beautiful
dude,
thing.
yeah. It's like it's what everyone says. It's almost a cliche because it's exactly what everyone says, but you have to experience it for yourself.
Yeah,
And
like
when you do, it's
so many things in life are like that.
yeah.
How old is your daughter now?
She is coming up on 9 months, about 8.5 months. Yeah, she'll be 9 months next week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just really, really, really special.
Yeah.
So have there been any, maybe she's like right before the point where the jiu-jitsu keeps, no, that's not true, actually. I found that jiu-jitsu has taught me so many amazing lessons about being a father, like so many. I learned so much from my sensei. So before I tell you mine, like, have you used any jiu-jitsu? Not physically, metaphorically, for being a father?
That's a good question. Never really thought of it that way, to be honest. She's been like a dream baby. So like there hasn't been a whole lot of like jiu-jitsu really teaches you to manage discomfort, be comfortable being uncomfortable. And I was expecting like a lot more kind of like sleeplessness and stuff, but she sleeps super easy. She's like doesn't really cry very much. It's like we hit the lottery with this one. So the next one's probably going to be a nightmare. But so far it's been honestly like it hasn't been too challenging really.
Yeah.
To be honest.
When I started training jiu-jitsu, I was 24. This was in 2009. I'm 38 today. So I'm 24.
Today? Happy birthday.
No, not today.
Okay.
I'm June baby, but
okay.
38 like years old
Gotcha.
during this podcast. When I was 24, I did not have children on the mind. That was not where my head was at. My sensei, Nardu Devra, he had recently had a child, his son, who's I guess around 18ish today. So at the time he was probably around 2.5, 3 years old when I met my sensei. And so he was a new father, and he was telling us real time the lessons of being a father and how martial arts and jiu-jitsu helped him. So one of the things he said was, I'll be in my car and I'm driving, I got my hand on the steering wheel, and I'll be like bobbing my head to the music, and I'll catch in the rearview mirror, and my son, who's 2.5, 3 years old, and what's he doing? He's following me. He's bobbing to the music. He's bobbing. And this is the aspect of monkey see, monkey do, where they're going to reveal so much about you, the things you like about yourself, the things you don't like about yourself, from like a ridiculously early age. And I wonder if this has been your experience too, but I'm just so blown away with how intelligent babies are around the 9-month mark before they even start speaking. And you're like, wait a second, this kid knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Like you can almost communicate a little bit weirdly. And there is like, she's started mimicking and stuff now. One thing she's been doing a lot is growling. So she'll just be going, rah, rah, rah. And I was FaceTiming with my wife the other day, and she's got Sadie, my daughter, in front of the camera, and she starts going, rah, rah. And I started going, rah, rah back. And we had this little conversation where I'd rah, and then she would rah.
Yeah.
And then I would rah.
That's adorable.
Another thing she's doing is flapping her arms. So I'll start flapping my arms around on the camera, and then she'll start flapping her arms around. And it's wild, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's these little things. I mean, they're so important. Oh, so and then the other one is, so my sensei always tells us, and he still tells these stories over the years. Like I heard him 24. Maybe he didn't talk about it, and then 26, and then 32, and all these different stages in my life, I've heard these stories over and over again to reinforce it. But one that he loves to tell is about children. You'll be feeding a young baby. You're feeding him spaghetti, and they pick up the spaghetti in their hand, and they look at the spaghetti, and they look at you, and then they throw the spaghetti on the floor. And you have a choice to make. Are you going to scream, yell, why'd you throw the spaghetti on the floor? Don't throw the spaghetti on the floor. You're not supposed to throw the spaghetti on the floor. And I think a vast majority of adults, parents, people, they're humans. That's the default mode. Someone does something, even if it's a child. And he always said, no, that's not what you do. You pick up the spaghetti, you clean the spaghetti, you throw the spaghetti away, you give them more spaghetti, you look at them in the eyes, it's time to eat. They did not provoke a reaction. And what's going to happen again? You know what's going to happen. They're going to pick the spaghetti up. They're going to look at the spaghetti. They're going to throw the spaghetti on the floor. And this whole thing is going to happen again. And if you give them the reaction they're looking for, you're going to reinforce this behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And so is that not the most perfect metaphor for jiu-jitsu? Like, and it's just, you know, kind of what you were saying about setting things up, thinking tactically, thinking strategically, and most importantly, I think thinking counterintuitively about life, about how certain things that you do seem counterintuitive at first. You know, many people want to yell and scream at their children, and they don't get the results that they're looking for.
Yeah,
they're not really yelling at the child; they're screaming at themselves. And so, anyway, these stories have been so important in my life and so important in my parenting style. And now I'm getting to see it. My oldest son is 5, and I get to see it like living through him.
That's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't done. We just started doing the solid food thing, and she's like, yeah, like I said, she's been pretty good so far. But I hear exactly what you're saying about the like anticipating a reaction and knowing what the reaction is going to be and how you're going to how you're going to act off of that reaction rather than, you know, emotion, like letting your emotions get the better of you. That's definitely one of the like main things that jiu-jitsu has given to me in my life for sure, is just that, like, if this then that, and I know that this is going to happen. Yep. So then, yeah, I got plan B and C kind of in the back pocket.
Yeah, it's so funny. I don't know if people listening, but this is how my son disappeared, and he came back up during the Super Bowl at halftime. His entire body painted red. He disappeared into the basement, and then his little brother came up looking like this. Also painted all
That's
red.
Awesome,
and,
dude.
You know, my wife and I wanted to scream, "You can't do that! What are you gonna do? We're gonna take away all your toys!" But we could only laugh. I mean, we could only, you know, laugh and try to teach the lesson the best that we can. So, you know, you try, even though you know the lessons, it's sometimes hard to, you know, embody them all the time. Yeah. So what's else is going on in your life? You have any good news with the band or things like? Is it, you know, everything's kind of gelling, coming up with a new album? I mean, you're touring. By the way, I saw you're going to be in New York in October. The last time you were in New York,
yes.
I came down with COVID, and I wasn't able to go. That was like 2 years ago. But I am going. I will be there. Your next show.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that'll be great, man. Yeah, dude, it's been awesome. Like, we've been playing. Like I said, we haven't released original music since 2018. So we've finally been playing some new songs in our set list for the first time in like 5 years. So that's been super, super fun. And yeah, it's been like at the start of this tour, we played at the Grand Ole Opry for our first time. So that was huge. That's like, especially in our genre of music, it's kind of like a real like milestone to play there.
So that was really cool. I think I was watching that on your YouTube channel. Awesome place.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place. So much history there. So that was really, really cool. Our new album knocked Taylor Swift out of the #1 spot in the UK country charts. That was pretty cool. She
no way.
For like 140 weeks or something. Yeah. I don't know how long. She'll probably be back to #1 next week, but we got that little, you know, it knocked her down for a second at least. Nice. So that was kind of cool. And I like Taylor Swift. She's awesome, but it's like it just was kind of a cool.
Hey, listen, it would be pretty cool if you could go on tour with her.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. I would love that. That'd be awesome. But yeah, other than that, man, it's just kind of like tour. It's kind of like jiu-jitsu. You just plug away at it, you know, show after show. You just keep showing up every day, keep performing. At home, I'm still streaming on Twitch, doing that thing. And yeah, just being a dad. It's pretty like nothing crazy exciting. Just a lot of like, you know, daily, doing the thing.
I mean, can you imagine that you could even say that touring the world as a professional musician is just minutia, like another job, like another guy showing up every day for work, doing his thing, being a new dad. But that is a great metaphor for life, and also perfectly, encapsulates jiu-jitsu, which is like, it is a daily practice. It's just something you choose to do every single day. No matter what you do, you try to do it a little bit better than you did the day before.
Exactly. Yeah. And like at first with jiu-jitsu, it's like, it's so mind blowing and exciting. And then you can kind of get into the, like, when you're training a lot, again, it's just like the excitement kind of wears off and you have to find new ways to keep yourself excited. And you can get very frustrated with it. And some days you're just like, oh man, like, what am I even doing here? I suck. Why? Some days I feel like I'm good at this. Some days I'm just like, I don't even know what I'm doing. It's the same thing with music, same thing with performing. Like, you go those first 3 or 4 shows of the tour, there's a big adrenaline rush. You go on stage, you see all these people, it's crazy. And after that, it's just kind of like, you go out, you're doing the job, focusing on the parts, hoping you're doing everything right.
Yeah.
And
it's you said this earlier before, but when I, sometimes, like when I'm plateauing and I'm trying to find more enjoyment in something, I set these like little goals for myself. And, in the past I've done run a 5K or an exercise goal. And a lot of times people say like, well, I only have time to jiu-jitsu, and I, I'm not getting to where I want in jiu-jitsu. It's not as fun as I want it to be. So when I was a blue belt, the guy that originally got me into jiu-jitsu, his name was Lou Levine. He was one of the founders of my academy. He's one of my best friend's father's girl. Her name is Ryan, we're bound now. And her father, Lou Levine, he told me around the time I got my blue belt, he said, you've gotten to be about as good as you're going to get in jiu-jitsu if you don't start taking your health more seriously. You need to cross-train, you need to run, you need to lift, you need to diet. And at different times over my life, I've, those things have been up and down. But I had 2 real catastrophic injuries since I spoke to you last. I had a knee injury that took me out for 12 weeks PT, and then a shoulder injury that took me out for 12 weeks PT. And each time I went all the way down and I came all the way back, and then it happened again. And over the past maybe 4 or 5 months, I have been really taking my health seriously, diet, exercise, weightlifting, cross training. And what I have found is I'm enjoying jiu-jitsu so much more because I have that foundation of the physicality, and the strength is there, the cardio is there. I don't have to like reach for those things. They're just kind of like there at the foundation, and it's allowing me to enjoy the jiu-jitsu so much more. So I often kind of give the advice out to people who are looking to find more enjoyment in the jiu-jitsu is to like use the principles of jiu-jitsu in other areas of your life to maximize the thing that you love. Same goes for work. Like in my work, I've often advised people who run businesses, like you have to just fall in love with the learning process, the art of learning. Go back and take another class on leadership or accounting or some area of weakness. Try to make that weakness a strength. They're like, I'm not taking another class. Are you kidding me? I haven't taken a class since college. And that's the jiu-jitsu like lifestyle. Like we just love learning. There's an aspect of it. We choose to go do that every night.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, dude, the cross training element is something that I've been finding importance in as well. Like, especially like weightlifting. Like I said, I put on like probably 20 pounds since we spoke last. I've been lifting a lot, and it just feels like you said, it's like a foundation. It feels like armor, like your body's just kind of armored up. And like for me, it's like I've been much less injury prone. Since I put on some muscle mass, and then it puts, like, I find I can get way too hyper focused if I'm just doing jiu-jitsu, and that's kind of the only thing you're focused on. I can get kind of like tunnel vision, and I can get like, it's like almost like swirly in my head to the point where I almost don't even know what I'm trying to do anymore. But if I got something else to like focus on a little bit, then it's like you said, then it brings a little bit more puts a little more perspective, I guess, into the actual jiu-jitsu, and makes it a little more fun, because I don't want to say not taking it as seriously, but if that's all I'm focusing on is like my performance in the gym and whether I'm like, technically and tactically being proficient, you can really beat yourself up when you're maybe not having the best days or whatever, you get injured and it's just absolutely devastating because you can't do that one thing anymore. You got these other little things to kind of focus on in your life. It can kind of just like take a little bit of the stress and the pressure off. And ironically, I find that like when I'm less focused on my performance is when my performance is better. And that's kind of the same thing with performing on stage too, is like, if I go out and I'm kind of, man, I keep fucking this solo up in this one song every single night, I'm screwing up and I'm hyper fixated on it, I'm not going to perform as well. But when I, maybe have a couple weeks off, come back on tour, go out and I'm not thinking about it, it's like, I'll nail that part because I'm not as focused on it. There's kind of this almost like this separation that needs to happen. I don't really know how to describe it.
Well, listen, just so great catching up with you. Please stay in touch. Let's do this again soon. I'm really excited for you to come to New York. It's in October, so we have plenty of time to plan it. But let's make sure to connect in plenty of time in advance of that, so that you can come and train at my academy, get some rounds in. And let me share my screen so that we can show where people can find you. So first of all, you're the Colton Crawford on Instagram.
Yep.
Come here to share. Here's the page for the Dead South, the Dead South, one word, on Instagram. You're on tour. I'm going to pull up your tour schedule right now also.
Oh, yeah.
Man, you guys have a lot of tour dates this year. Just so awesome. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts on this. Maybe we'll catch into this next time about kind of the future of the economy and creativity, creators, musicians, like people who do things with their hands. I just think it's like becoming more important than ever. Certainly harder than ever to break into an industry and make it a full-time job, but just incredible what's happening in Twitch and TikTok and all over the social media world.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Yeah, so let's see what shows you got coming up for people who are going to listen to this. It's probably going to come out next Wednesday, so that's in the middle of next week. So you're going to be at San Antonio at the Aztec Theater on the 23rd, House of Blues on the 24th, Minglewood Hall in Memphis, Tennessee on the 26th, Fayetteville, Arkansas on the 27th. Wow, is this a packed schedule?
Yeah.
Oh, baby. Tulsa, Oklahoma on the 28th, at Kane's Ballroom, Steamboat Springs, Colorado on March 1st. Oh, let me see. Oh, and then you're heading out to Australia. I'm going to be in Colorado in March at the end of the month, but that would have been so. I would have driven any distance to come see you.
Oh, man, that would have been awesome.
Yeah. So you're going to be in Australia, let's see here, from March 20th, and then you're in New Zealand until April 7th. Wow. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, dude.
And then
then
we have a good we have a little following. I've been to Berlin. We have a lot of followers from Berlin. So you're going to be in Berlin in June. For anyone who's listening in Berlin, Zitadel, Spendu.
Yep.
And then all over Europe. Yeah, I'm going to put up a link to this, but yeah, please go check out their tour schedule, and then you're back in the U.S. for the end of the summer.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, busy year, super busy.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, great catching up with you. Stay in touch, and looking forward to talking to you again soon.
Yeah, thanks so much, man.
Yeah. See ya.
See ya.